We're good? Okay. I'm going to call the Star City Council meeting to order. It's Tuesday, December 17th at 7 p.m. here at the Star City Council Chambers. Can you please join me for the Pledge of Allegiance? All right, tonight's invocations by Associate Pastor Nathan Held with the Calvary Star Church.
Good evening, and let us pray. Heavenly Father, thank you so much for your grace, your mercy, your power. Thank you, Lord, for your love that you bestow upon us in amazing ways. We thank you, Lord, for another city council meeting, Lord. We pray that you would lead and guide and direct it, Lord Jesus. We ask you, Lord, that you would grant wisdom and discernment and insight, Lord, to our mayor, to the city council members, Lord, as they lead our city, Father. Lord, we're so eternally grateful for the country that we get to live in, Lord, the state that we get to live in the city, Lord. We are extremely blessed, Lord. So we ask you, Lord, that you bless this meeting, bless this time. In Jesus' name we pray. Amen.
Sounds like we have some dueling alarms going off on vehicles outside. I'm going to wait just a second here, just to make so everybody get their alarm taken care of. That's very loud.
Mr. Mayor, one of those is a little white car parked over here.
Little white car
Yep.
and a white Ford Raptor out back. There's a one out front too. Which one out front?
Little white.
Oh, okay, gotcha.
One sets off the other.
There you go.
I woke you up.
Thank you, Larry, for taking care of that. Well, that's an odd way to start the night. It doesn't usually have car alarms going off, but yeah, with all the officers in the back, right? All right. Roll call.
Hershey,
Here.
Wheelock,
Here.
Salvinson. Here.
And Councilor Nielsen is absent with a family thing tonight. So we're going to move on to presentations. We do have a check presentation to the Warhawk Air Museum. I think Dana has that. You going to say something about that, Miss Dana?
Mr. Mayor and council members, Dana Partridge, Public Information Officer for the City of Star. Tonight, we get to do something fun. We get to give back to our community. As you know, we host our annual Veterans Potato Feed, and it was designed to really just honor the veterans, those who came back from wars. But one ancillary benefit of living in a community that's so generous is that all the food is donated. So Ridley's donated the potatoes, Tip Anderson with Anderson Property Group donated the fixins, and PacWest Apparel donated the pumpkin pies and the desserts. So that means that all the money that came in from the community, we get to give back to a veterans organization. And so this year, the designated beneficiary is the Warhawk Air Museum. So tonight you get to present a check for $1,000 to the museum director, Mr. Carson Spear.
Thank you, everyone. Good evening. Thank you to the city council members, and thank you, Mr. Mayor, and thank you, Dana, for that amazing event, amazing support. I've lived in Star 7 years, and I don't ever want to live anywhere else. It's such a patriotic community, and if you haven't been out to the Warhawk Air Museum, there's a lot of new stuff, and September 12th, 2025 is the new expansion for the Global War on Terror, honoring our men and women that served in Iraq and Afghanistan. So this is a big honor, and thank you so much for thinking of us. Appreciate it.
All right, thank you, Carson. We also have one more. We're doing a check presentation to the Idaho Veterans Wreaths.
Okay, so the ink isn't coming off the big check, so you're just going to have to
Okay.
give Jake a little check.
All right.
So the next one is for the Beautification Committee does, as you know, from September 11th to November 11th, our wonderful veterans banners that we display along State Street. And this year, they decided that the beneficiary of that would be the Idaho Veterans Wreath Program, which places the wreaths up at the cemetery up on Horseshoe Bend. So tonight I have Mr. Jake Faulkner. He is with Idaho Division of Veterans Services, and he is the bureau chief for the cemetery.
Cool. Do a little check.
All right.
Yeah, you come up here. Jennifer's the liaison for our Park Star beautification. So we'll give you that one. You got your camera? All right.
Thank you, Mayor, City Council. So if you guys don't know about Idaho Veteran Wreaths, historically, we've done wreaths across America. And last year, we got a committee together sponsored by Idaho Veterans Network. And the committee is made up of several veteran service organizations throughout the Treasure Valley. And we wanted to do the same traditions, honor the veterans that we have at my cemetery. However, we transitioned to Idaho Veteran Wreaths. That way, all the revenue that we occur, we can keep and support Idaho veterans instead of sending roughly $120,000 a year annually to Maine, never to see that money again. So this year, with the help of you guys and our wonderful Treasure Valley, we've raised $105,000 this far, and that's just kicking off in July. So the last 7 months, we've started raising. We've already helped 4 different veterans with rent assistance, keeping them in their house for the holidays, and then 2 different veterans with vehicle repairs. One, $3,000 worth of vehicle repairs to keep him employed, to keep him on the right track, instead of snowballing into the other direction. So thank you again. And I love living in the stars. It's my 5th year. I'm working on Carson, but yeah, thank you, Mayor.
Thank you. Appreciate it. We are a very patriotic community. You see it all year round here, which is awesome, right? All right, we're going to move on to IIIA annual review.
All right, Mayor Chadwick, Council, thank you so much for having me here today. My name is Megan Smith, and I am the Wellness Director for the IIIA. Oh. Okay, so we thank the City of Star for being part of our trust since 2021. On the first page of our report, you'll just see our mission and vision. We are now, so this report is ending September 30th, 2023. So this is for our last plan year. At that time, we had 114 public agencies across the state of Idaho, about 2,400 employees, and over 6,400 lives. Our annual budget is a little over 37.5 million. We had 98% participation in our wellness screening, and total savings on programs that I'll mention today was about $2.2 million. On the next page, you'll see our agencies. Anything highlighted blue is new joining in this last plan year. We are governed by a board of trustees. We have 13 trustees in the state. Our chair is Dan Hammond from City of American Falls. On the next page, you'll see our IIIA team. We have 9 staff members, and you'll also see our budget, how it's broken out there. 89% of our dollars spent goes towards claims, medical, dental, vision, mental health. 6% TPA administrators, 1% contractors, and then 3% is staff and operations. Important part of our member relations there at the bottom is that we had over 5,500 calls into our benefits line. So this is a team of our that a 24/7 phone line that goes to our staff up above to just help any member questions. We internally administer 11 benefits and we sponsor 11 conferences across the state. Finance-wise, RX rebates over last year, we had $1.9 million in rebates. Subrogation, we received about $34,000 in subrogation refunds. So this is any third-party liability refund. We had a 16% increase to our stop-loss premium. That's our catastrophic insurance. And this increase was just due to high claimants. We had interest earned about $161,000, and we just recently moved financial institutes, so we plan to see that increase this plan year. IB&P reserves, this is what is incurred but not paid. This number is what the Department of Insurance requires us to have set aside. So this is 2.9 million. So this is for 3 months of runout claim if the trust is to have to shut down. Budget growth at the bottom there really is just due to the increase in enrollment. All right, on the next page, just touch on our medical plan. Over the last plan year, we had 46 agencies across the state reach out for information. We rated 25 groups, which is a medical application underwriting. We had 0 of our current groups drop any benefits. We had 12 new agencies join. 5 agencies we had to decline, unfortunately, just due to high risk of the trust. And we have 1 small agency that was now able to offer additional benefits such as dental vision or family members maybe being able to cover them as well. You can see our renewal there. We show the last 5 years. 5-year trend for AAA is 6.2 and Idaho is 6.5. So typically you'll see anywhere from 6 to 7% increase per year. And this is just medical inflation for medical and pharmaceuticals. So we like to pride ourselves in keeping that somewhat within the very close to trend or below. And you'll see just the growth below on agencies' employees over the last 3 years. On the next page, we'll talk about our high claimants. We monitor anybody who has over $100,000 in claim. And then we purchase that catastrophic insurance, which is called stop loss. The deductible we had last year was $450,000. So any member that has claims over $450,000 is when that catastrophic insurance kicks in and we get that money back anything we paid over. So as you can see, claimant number 1 had a total of $4.1 million in claims. This was our highest claimant the trust has ever had. So reimbursement wise, we've received almost $4 million of that back due to run out claims, more claims coming in. So this is why we saw an increase in our stop loss for the year. That member has termed, and we had 3 other members hit stop loss. So some years we have members hit, some years we don't, but that is just the risk business. As you can see at the bottom in comparison, last plan year, we had 23 members hit. Total paid claims for those members was 5.2 million, where total claims for the members above was 11.1 million. Medical programs. So these are a few programs that we have put in place internally just to really help contain cost and save money. Medical infusion program, or one of our most utilized benefits that's a big cost saving is our telehealth program. So we contract with 2 Idaho-based nurse practitioners that you and your employees can call 24/7. So we had over 4,000 calls to that line last year. So estimated savings is about $300,000. We figure those members will either be going to the ER or walk-in clinics, which can be a lot more costly and just less convenient. Another great program is our digital physical therapy program. We had 226 members participate, and this was the first year offering this program. So whether they did not have to have surgeries or just got off pain medications, estimated savings was almost $500,000 for that program. Another big one is the copay assistance program, which is the RX patient assistance program, and we had over $1 million in savings from doing that program. On the next page, we touch on our wellness screening. So City of Star did a great job in offering this benefit. We had a lot of people turn out over our trust. We had 56% of our members participate in a wellness screening last year. So As we all know, prevention is so important, catching these higher claimants as early as possible. So we had 101 agencies participate, and you can see some of the findings. And then there's pictures of our 2 nurse practitioners who are based in Idaho that are also our telehealth providers. Dermatological skin checks is something new we've been offering. So we have a dermatologist come on site as well. In the last 3 years, we've had some really high cost melanoma claimants. So catching these earlier is extremely important. So just in the last year, we had 4 possible melanomas and a few lesions removed, and then also caught some non-melanoma skin cancers. The dental and vision plans are on the next pages, and you'll see we had 4 groups add dental. 1 small agency was now able to offer this, and the renewal was 1.5 versus trend of 4.5, so a lot less expensive benefit. So the increases are very minimal, and you can see the growth over the year for that benefit. And then for the vision plan, we had 3 groups add vision, 1 small agency, and then our renewal is 5.9 versus Idaho being 4.9. And the reason these increases look higher is because we only increase this benefit by $1. So it takes a full 14.3% to increase it $1. So over the last 5 years, we've only increased this benefit by $2. And then our mental health plan. This is a plan that we really pride ourselves in. It's one of our largest benefits now. Over 2,400 employees are on this benefit. We now sell it as a standalone benefit. So we have agencies across the state just purchasing our mental health plan. So this gets them access to our first responder family helpline for first responders and their families, and EAP visits. And we have vetted our own first responder EAP network, where we have 48 providers that are in the state of Idaho that are culturally competent to be working with first responders. We had over 224 first responder helpline calls last year, which was a 4% increase, 5 crisis calls, 7 critical incident debriefs, and then 30 members go inpatient. And that's for all population, not just first responders. So it is something that's definitely in need, and we're really just continuing to promote this benefit. We're doing new things like wellness in the workplace, having providers come on site and work alongside police and fire, and just really getting them the access to care that they need for mental health. And on the last page, we just talk a little bit about what we are doing in this plan year, which started October 1. Continue to do reduction in professional and third-party fees. We have got rid of our accountant and moved to accounting software. We moved to Smith RX, which is our new pharmacy benefit manager, which they use Amazon and Mark Cuban Cost Plus Pharmacy. We're offering 15-minute mindfulness Mondays. We have a CPAP and BiPAP program. As I mentioned, we moved to a new financial institution, new accounting software, new billing and enrollment software, and then those wellness, regional mental health wellness teams that we put in place. So anything I can answer for you regarding IIIA?
Any questions? No? Easy enough. Thank you.
Okay, thank you guys so much.
Okay. Chief Hessing? At the police chief report?
Good evening, Mr. Mayor, City Council members, Chief Zach Hessing, Star Police Department. I know you got quite the crowd tonight and a busy schedule, so I'll try to make this quick and go through this report. But if you have any questions or concerns, feel free to interrupt me and ask. So as of this end of November, we had a total for the year of 80 person crimes, 61 property crimes, and 87 society crimes, total of 228 total crimes in the city of Star. For the month of November, we had 8 person crimes, 9 property crimes, and 4 society crimes. And just to kind of give you an idea what those property crimes are looking at, we had 4 commercial burglaries. Those are ones that are happening at the construction sites and stealing tools and different things. And we had 2 shoplifting type crimes that occurred. One was a gas station, grabbing stuff and running out the door. So, which we know who kids those were that were doing that. So we're looking into that. For calls for service, the total calls for service, this when a citizen actually calls either a non-emergency or 911 and asks for a deputy respond, we had 318. And proactive policing calls, that's where we're self-initiating the calls and going out there and trying to get in front of the crime, is 2,097. So we had about 6.5 to 1. We're pretty proactive here in Star. I think we can kind of see that in the crimes that we're seeing that it's definitely having an impact on dropping, especially the person crimes for the year. We had a total crash response. That's the only thing I could see in the select call types down there. We see that that's going up. It's because of the icy roads and the different conditions that are happening out there. We've had 33 for the month of November. We've seen that's the highest. Well, September was the highest, but it's definitely higher than last month. And then as of a year ago, we're up a little bit in crashes here in Star. The other one that I kind of want to look at was location checks. We've done 433 location checks. What those are is anytime somebody goes out of town or asks us to stop by and check on their house or business, whoever it might be, that we're going and checking on those. So especially around the holidays, we get quite a few that are asking for us to stop by and check on those. So that's definitely an increase, the highest we've seen all year there, which is good. It's a proactive call. So traffic stops, we are seeing those go up. We're at 315 this month. We're compared to last month, we're at 261. Total arrests for the month was 6. 2 of those were misdemeanor marijuana and paraphernalia charges. Then we had total infractions or citations. The infractions, we had 47 infractions and 19 misdemeanor citations. And then the one thing that we've been talking about quite a bit is the code 3 response times. That's when we're running lights and siren to get to somebody who's called 911, needs help. We had an issue with showing our units on scene. I think we fixed that issue. As you can see in the numbers, it's down to 2 minutes and 44 seconds, which is a City of Star. We have a goal to be under 4 minutes. And so we're well below that for this month and trying to beat that average down a little bit. And I think, again, that was the issues with showing on scene. So I'm glad that we're getting there quick. And then outside the City of Star was 4 minutes and 9 seconds. So that's the monthly report. I have more information on different stats if you like them, but is there any questions, Mr. Mayor or City Council, that you have?
Anybody have questions right now? Kevin? No? All right, no, we're good.
All right, thank you.
Thank you, sir. The fire chief report, I know is Matt here? Anderson? I don't think he's here. Our fire chief, Tominski, got called to a dinner with the governor, so I think he took that call versus coming here on that. Is Victor back there? Did you want to speak? No? Okay, all right. So we're going to move on from that. It's pretty easy. Move on to item 5, the consent agenda.
Mayor Chadwick,
Councilwoman?
I move that we approve the consent agenda consisting of 5A, the approval of claims, and 5B, the approval of minutes for November 19th, 2024.
Okay, we have a motion. We have a second.
I'll second that.
We have a motion and a second by Councilman Wheelock. Any further discussion? Hearing none, roll call.
Hershey.
Aye.
Wheelock.
Aye.
Solomon.
Right, that motion carries. Thank you. Ryan, you want to give me the public sign-in sheet, please? Or public comment sheet, I guess. All right. So this is the time for folks sign up to come talk for 3 minutes about anything you want that's not on the agenda tonight. So first we got Pete Licky, and what you need to do is state your name and your address, please, for the record. And we actually, is that working up there, Ryan? We do have our little 3-minute timer up on the wall for you. After you state your address, it'll start running.
My name is Pete Malicki. I live at 6724 Bigwood Way, Star, Idaho.
Oh, so real quick, I'm sorry, Pete. You wrote on here the Legato plat.
Yep.
Need to wait till that hearing to speak to
Oh.
that. So I'll add you to that one.
That'd be that one.
Yep, I'll add you to that one. Perfect. Thank you. Oriana, are you here? There you are. Are you something else outside of Legato plat, or is it the Legato plat? Okay, you come up here. Yeah, go ahead. Come up here, state your name and address for the record, and then the floor is yours.
Speak that fast, but I will try my best.
My name is Soriana. I am from the Dominican Republic and I have been living in Star.
Just put your address.
680 South Calhoun Place.
Thank you.
Star, Idaho. And I came here just to deliver this idea regarding integrating a program where people could get more involved in the farming and cattling during some activities. So I will try to read the letter presentation as soon as I can. So recently I was moved to post something regarding a question that I saw in the social media. What type of business would be beneficial or interesting for the people who have living here in Star? I posted my thoughts in Star Spirit Community Chatter and News. And the article I posted is "The Star is perfect the way it is." The article purpose was to inspire the community to embrace the essence of what makes Star so special and do something about it. Instead of seeking new things, use what Star already has, which is already great. I wanted to motivate the intentionality of reinforcing Star's identity, as it is this uniqueness that truly sets this wonderful city apart. Some community members, like the post, shared their thoughts in the comments and suggested that I should share these ideas here in the City Council, which I am trying to humbly do right now. I believe that Star has dedicated authorities and committed citizens working hard for its betterment. I must say that I am unfamiliar with the system plans and projects that might resemble the proposal I will share. Nevertheless, I am sharing these ideas from the post I mentioned above for the request of some community members. That said, while I appreciate the progress and the dynamism of the economy, I do not resonate with proposals aimed at transforming this community into a small big city. As I mentioned above, Star is just perfect the way it is. Therefore, I am writing to share an idea that could benefit Star while preserving its charm and rural character. I will make it. I have learned that our agriculture and cattle operations play a vital role in Star identity. And by integrating educational and participatory programs into this business, we can foster a deeper appreciation for farming while helping to build a stronger and more unified community. Here are some suggestions for activities that could be implemented without disrupting the daily operations and providing both educational benefits and more profound connections for farming, ranching, for our long-time residents and newcomers. I want to be respectful of the time.
Do you have it all in writing, what you put
Yes,
down?
sir.
If you don't mind, if you could give Shelley the copy of that, we can take a look at that as a whole. Yeah, and then Ms. Oriana, get a hold of Dana and set up a meeting and stuff, and we can sit down and talk about what you're looking at. Okay? Perfect. And Dana's the one in the back, in the corner there. Thank you. All right. Mr. Peter Goodwin? You got your car figured out? We're good now?
We do. Yes, thank you. Sorry. Good evening, City Council members and Mayor Chadwick. My name is Peter Goodwin. I live at 9900 West Sunset Valley Street in the Sunfield Estates subdivision. My wife and I have been here since the middle of 2024, and we are very happy here. We do face a number of challenges within our subdivision, and it's strictly directly related to the performance of the developer, or in fact, the lack of performance of the developer. There are a number of items within our subdivision that are unsafe, that are incomplete, that don't represent what the city of Star should look like. And we're really concerned about how this will continue to affect not only our quality of life, but our property values, and making our subdivision a great place to live. One of the things I understand is under consideration is strengthening of the code enforcement process by the City Council. This is sorely needed. We have, again, a home subdivision of about 70 folks. We love it here. We're really struggling with how to get these issues resolved. And we understand the developer has just walked away from our subdivision. So anything the city council can do to improve that process, to strengthen that process, frankly, to put some teeth into the enforcement of the city codes is really appreciated.
So I don't want to cut you off. Are you
Good.
You're good. So we are talking about that tonight as part of our council meeting, is adding the code enforcement officers specifically through the police. We do have a challenge though. It's just not unique to Star with prosecutors prosecuting misdemeanors from Ada County. That's how our process is set up. So we're also working on another process with other cities to try to hire our own prosecutors that give us a little more teeth on our municipal codes, just so you're aware.
Okay.
So those steps are working on to be taken. So I think you would support the new code enforcement officer, right?
Absolutely.
Okay,
Appreciate it. Thank you very much.
that works. Yes, thank you, sir. All right. We will move on to the next section here. The public hearing for the Legato subdivision is first. This was tabled on November 19th until today. It's just so everybody's aware of the process. The applicant will come up and speak and present their project. Then actually, I'm sorry. I'm going to open the public hearing. I'm going to ask the council if there's any ex parte contact or communication. The applicant will speak to present their project. The council can ask the applicant questions and staff questions during that time. Then we'll have public testimony for those that are for it, against it, or neutral to it. The council may ask the individual speaking some follow-up questions that does not count towards their 3 minutes. The applicant rebuttal will happen thereafter. And then the council can ask the applicant and staff questions, and then that's me, will close the public hearing. And the council will deliberate either to an action to approve of conditions, deny, or table that application to a date certain in the future, just so everybody's aware of the process. Only the person that's up at the table is allowed, or at the podium is allowed to speak. No one should be cheering or making comments and stuff in the background. So we want to keep it all civil. All right. With that said, it is 7:32. I'm going to open the public hearing and ask the council if they have any ex parte contact or communication regarding this project.
No.
No.
None.
Okay, hearing none, and I forgot to add this, that staff is going to open up the project here for everybody. Present it real quick.
Mr. Mayor, Council, thank you. First public hearing you have before you is Legato subdivision preliminary plat modification. The applicant is requesting preliminary plat modification to convert public streets within the subdivision to private streets with privacy gates. So you have before you an application for the modification and for private streets. Development is located on the west side of Bent Lane, south of Highway 44. Original preliminary plat, which was for the Star River Ranch North subdivision, now called Legato, included 71 single-family dwelling lots, 12 common lots with public streets. All application requirements, including submittal requirements, agency transmittals, legal notices, and site posting have been completed in compliance with the Unified Development Code. We did table this item from our last public hearing because we did not have a proper posting of the site, so that has been done now.
Yep.
The application has been reviewed for compliance with the Unified Development Code and the City Comprehensive Plan. You do not have any late exhibits. Again, your items for consideration are changing the previously approved layout or preliminary plat to include private streets with gates. Staff is recommending denial of this application for reasons that we can discuss at a later date after the applicant does his presentation.
Okay.
I believe we'll have
Same day, just later in the application.
a later time this evening. How's that?
All right.
Thank you, sir.
Very good. All right. And we're going to have two of you, right? Speaking up here. Who's going first? So just state your name and address for the record for me, please.
Thank you, Mayor Chadwick, Council. My name is Connor Lindstrom with KM Engineering, 5725 North Discovery Way, Boise, Idaho, 83713. And I'm a planner with KM Engineering, representing the property owner with Legato subdivision. And then Tim is here to speak on behalf of the property owner. as well, so he can speak after. I just wanted to give a brief overview. Thank you to staff for clarifying things, and they're going to pull up a presentation here shortly. But just wanted to reiterate what we're applying for here, and it is a preliminary plat modification. This is a preliminary plat that was already previously approved back in 2023. And so we're not really proposing to change much other than the gates to make this a private development, to not allow for public, the public to drive through there. And in addition to that, we're also looking to do a brief amenity change to swap out pickleball court for a pool with some changing rooms as well. And so Tim here, he can speak more in detail and answer any questions you have, but I'll end with that. And Tim, if you want to add anything else. Yeah.
All right, Mr. Tim, just address and name, please, sir.
Good morning, Mayor and council members, or good evening, Mayor and council members. My name is Tim Eck. I live at 6357 Buena Vista Lane, Star, Idaho. I'm the manager of the owner of Legato Subdivision, previously known as Star River Ranch North. Preliminary plat in front of you this evening. As you know, this is currently an approved preliminary plat. Phase 1 is fully approved by all agencies for development, and development has started. We're before you tonight asking to modify the subdivision, primarily changing the internal roads from public roads to private roads. We desire to make this small enclave safer, quieter, more private, more secure by gating the community. Gating Legato would be similar to the Lake Haven Estates subdivision, contiguous to our northeast corner, and similar to the estates in Star River Ranch subdivision number 2. We previously made application to Highway District 4 to gate the public roads, and our application was rejected unless we make the roads private. This plat is a small enclave consisting of 71 residential lots with 3 connections. There is one primary connection to the north-south collector segment of Bent Lane, one connection to the east-west local segment of Bent Lane, and one connection to a very short collector segment of Landreth Lane to be constructed in a later phase. Given the location of this subdivision with Bent Lane collector on our east boundary and Landreth Lane collector on our northwest corner, planned to connect from Bent Lane to Blessinger, there's absolutely no reason for through traffic. While staff is not providing a positive recommendation of this application, they are not recommending denial. Those are the words from the staff report. They were not recommending denial. Staff mentions comments about private streets received from fire and police. The only obstacle to fire access would be the gates that can and will be equipped with any first responder access devices requested. Beyond the gates, the private roads are designed and approved for construction to the exact same design standards as required for public roads. As for concerns in the police response, it is quite clear that the police response is generic, and they have not looked at or studied our specific plat configuration objectively. I lived in Star River Ranch for 2 years, and for 3 years prior to that, was there every day developing phase 2 and building my home. While I fully respect the work law enforcement does patrolling the roads for traffic violations, in these small subdivisions without through traffic, it is rare if it happens at all. Having a subdivision gated will eliminate all through traffic. Through traffic is the traffic that would be inclined to drive at excess speeds, not the local homeowners. All our traffic will be limited to the small handful of local residents going to and from their homes. The configuration of our subdivision is absent any road segments where excessive speed is likely to be obtained. Our 2 longest roads are only 1,025 feet in length with 90-degree turns at both ends. These segments each have 3 concrete stormwater conveyance V-gutters crossing them. These V-gutters are the best speed mitigation improvements that can be installed. Unlike bulb outs that you can speed around and speed bumps that can be taken at a pretty good clip, these V-gutters can damage your vehicle if hit at excessive speeds. Most vehicles can safely bounce over a speed bump, but hitting a V-gutter at excess speeds can cause most cars to bottom out, scratching or even seriously damaging the front bumper. Driving under the influence arrest within the subdivision seems highly unlikely. An intoxicated driver leaving their home would drive a maximum distance of 1,000 feet to the nearest exit where they would be stopped at a gate. Once they exit the subdivision, they are on Bent Lane or Landreth Lane, where they are more likely to be spotted by law enforcement. An intoxicated driver coming home would also be stopped at the gate before they entered the subdivision. Then they would have a maximum of 1,000 feet to their home if they entered at the closest entrance. To the contrary, if the community is not gated, then you offer the opportunity for intoxicated drivers to slip in and drive through the subdivision to avoid detection on the roads more likely to be patrolled. Parking complaints are also mitigated by gating the community. First, you eliminate all non-resident and uninvited vehicles. Our CCNRs can be lenient or as strict as we want them to be in order to prevent prohibited parking. Quite frankly, the homeowners association can better enforce public parking than law enforcement. The HOA can levy fines against owners for parking violations and have vehicles parking in violations of the CCNR's towed. Unlike a parking ticket that likely gets trashed, when the HOA levies a fine, it is enforceable by placing a lien on the offender's home. The same fines can be levied against speeders. We just must define the fines in the CCNRs. Additionally, if the roads are private, we can post lower speed limits than public roads generally allow. It is important to also consider the upgraded amenities we're proposing. With the approval of upgrading to private roads, we plan to upgrade the amenities. In lieu of pickleball courts, we're planning a pool and changing room. You may not be aware that pickleball courts near homes are coming under significant scrutiny. The noise made deprives nearby homes of their right to peaceful enjoyment of their homes. As a result, there has been significant litigation, and the homeowners association with pickleball courts are losing. We have worked closely with Tradition Capital Partners on their Lake Haven Estates subdivision. We are jointly building a shared pressurized irrigation facility to service both subdivisions. We have discussed the possibility of combining both subdivisions into a single homeowners association, where in addition to sharing the pressurized irrigation, we would also share amenities. In this combined associations, all members in both subdivisions would have access to their ponds, pickleball, tennis, and basketball courts, as well as access to our pool, changing rooms, and dog park. The purpose for changing the extension of Silverthorne Avenue to Bent Lane local to a shared drive is to eliminate traffic from our subdivision from using this local segment of Bent Lane. We want to prevent legato traffic from impacting the 4 residents that front load on Bent Lane local and direct all legato traffic to Bent Lane collector or Landreth Lane collector that as collector roads do not have direct lot access. The shared drive would still connect to Bent Lane as a temporary point of secondary ingress and egress for first responders. It would include ballers to prevent non-first responder access. It should be noted that these shared driveways are regularly approved. As an example, our Fallbrook subdivision in Star has 6 shared driveways. Alternately, we could gate the Silverstone Avenue collection to Bent Lane and leave it a connection. Should you approve this application for private roads, we understand the roads will not be owned and maintained by Canyon Highway District 4. The maintenance will be the responsibility of the HOA. The CCNRs will clearly reflect this obligation, and dues will be assessed funding a reserve account for road maintenance. This obligation can also be addressed in a plat note and a recorded road maintenance agreement. We will also include a disclaimer in any lot sales agreements requiring buyers' acknowledgement of private road maintenance obligation, and absent traffic and parking enforcement by local law enforcement. With all this information provided for your consideration, we respectfully request your approval of the application before you tonight. And I'll gladly stand for any questions.
Any questions of Tim?
I have one, Mr. Mayor. You mentioned that the highway district is going to deny this if you don't go private.
No, I did not mention that.
That's what you said.
That's what you said.
You made it, I wrote the same thing down. You said the highway district denied these being public roads and want them private.
No, the highway district denied our application for gates.
Oh, for the gates.
Public roads.
Oh, okay, denied the application for the gates on the
The
public.
gates, sorry.
Okay, all right.
They won't allow the gates unless the roads are private.
Well, it makes it a little better.
Sorry about that. Made sense when I typed it.
Okay, any further questions of the applicant at this time? Not yet? Okay, cool. Did you have something else to say? You got a few minutes.
So I just wanted to add.
Speak in the microphone though, so it gets.
Sorry about that.
Yeah.
I just wanted to add that the road construction to the private roads will be constructed to city standards, to public road standards. So they're not going to be, significantly smaller or anything like that. I just wanted to make that aware.
Yeah, all the public roads all the roads are currently designed to Canyon Highway District standards and requirements, and will also be. And as you all, I think, are well aware of
So they're the city of Star standards that they're enforcing. I gotta make sure that's clear. It's not Highway District 4 standards. It's our standards.
So the roads are being designed and built to all applicable standards.
Okay.
And you're well aware of the dilemma we all face with Highway District 4 applications. This project took them about a year to approve the CDs. And as we've got another phase out there and would really prefer not to have to be delayed a year in getting CDs approved at the Highway District.
Okay,
Mayor Chadwick,
Councilwoman?
I do have a question.
Okay.
So in your original application that we approved, it didn't include the private gate. And so what has changed to make you want to add it now?
Well, initially, the change was a result of the significant delay in getting projects approved through Highway District 4, which I believe you're all aware of that drama. And then just, the opportunity to upscale the subdivision, to fence it, make a secure subdivision, gated access, as well as our neighboring subdivision, Tradition Capital Partners, is all private roads with gated access. And that kind of planted the seed as a possible idea to match what's contiguous to us and do a gated community. And if we do merge the two homeowners associations so that we can both share, because they're both small subdivisions, but share the amenities between the two of them, it wouldn't be really as equal unless we're both gated communities.
So the one to the south is gated also? Which direction is the?
Is that Spencer's you're talking about?
Yeah, Spencer's property, yeah. It's on
The one down at the southeast corner. or
Southeast corner.
Yeah, southeast
We
corner
touch corner to corner.
of Bent Lane.
Right here?
Yeah, right.
Here. Sorry. Yeah, thank you.
Yeah, right there.
Yeah.
This is his right here, and this is Spencer's right.
And they have a number of amenities, but they don't have, a pool with changing rooms. And we thought that combining the two HOAs so that, because neither HOA is very long.
Yes, I remember that public hearing as well. Yes. The original one. And so we, figured that out. So that's all I had. Thank you.
Okay, any further questions at this time?
Not at this time.
Okay, all right, thank you. All right, we're going to move on to the public hearing testimony. And Mr. Pete, you did sign up on this one too, so you're good. Just your name and address, sir, for the record.
Mr. Mayor and City Council members, my name is Pete Blicky. I live at 6724 Bigwood Way, Star, Idaho, in the subdivision of Star River Ranch. The reason I'm stating up here is originally when the original plat was submitted, there was a conversation about annexation into Star River Ranch HOA. I know how the CCNRs are stated relative to his ability to annex, but it was also put on public record at that time that he said and stated that he would not, and the operative word is not, annex into Star River Ranch. And then we also received a letter from the homeowners association reiterating that same statement. So my statement here is to reiterate that he will not annex that new community into the Star River Ranch community. Thank you.
Chief Hessing?
Good evening, Mr. Mayor, City Council members. I just signed up as a neutral party. I just want to make sure that we understand the repercussions that private roads have for law enforcement. So I'm not here to say whether this is good or bad on the subdivision side of it. I just want to make sure it's education of what private roads do. And I know that Mr. Eck already kind of talked about the different law enforcement issues, some of the things I'll bring up tonight, and that HOAs can deal with some of the issues. But just to reiterate, the biggest thing, and it sounds like they've handled the first problem that we see or can be seen with private roads and having gates, is making sure we have access. And it sounds like they've accomplished that and making sure that we have access to that, whether that's through our I'm trying to remember what the name of it is, but when we turn our lights on, it'll open the gate automatically or overheads. Opticon,
Opticon.
thank you, our Opticon, which we do have. And so that would be fantastic to make sure we can still be under that 4-minute mark that I talked about earlier of responding to anybody that's having an emergency. Whenever you look at private roads, you have to look at it as the same as a parking lot, whether it's a Walmart parking lot, Albertsons parking lot, anything along those lines. So we as law enforcement can't enforce any infractions on private roads. And so what that means is the biggest complaint I get across my desk in the city of Star is traffic issues. And these traffic issues usually are about speeding and about running stop signs, are the two biggest. So in a subdivision like the one we see here, if we have, I mean, let's say 71 homeowners in there, you have 140 drivers, give or take a few there, obviously, but 140 drivers going in and out of there. And we've seen it on private roads already that we get calls, hey, that we have an issue with one of our residents that are speeding. Well, I have to be the bearer of bad news on that, saying, well, there's nothing we as law enforcement can do to be able to track a speed. Now, we can still park in the private roads. We still have access to this, but we can't sit and run radar, and we can't pull people over for speeding in there because we can't enforce any city ordinances, any Idaho state infractions or state statutes, except for if they're misdemeanors or felonies. Parking issues, well, that's another big thing that comes across my desk is parking issues. So just like when Albertsons has parking issues, they don't call us to go and remove the vehicle, they remove it themselves. So the HOA would have to take on responsibility in the subdivision that if they have a parking issue in front of a house or on the street that's been parked there longer than 72 hours, that's the rule in, for our city code, that you can't be there for longer than 72 hours. When we get that call, again, we have to inform them, sorry, it's a private road. There's nothing we can do to move your vehicle, to move that vehicle. Now, we will always try to help. We'll look for solutions. We can go there, run the plate, try to find a phone number, call the person, see if they'll move the vehicle, those type of things, if our time permits us to do so. But again, we when it comes to actual enforcement, we have no teeth whatsoever in private roads. Investigation of vehicle crashes. So the other issue that we have is we can't investigate vehicle crashes on private roads. So whenever there's a vehicle accident on private, like a private parking lot, let's say, we can get there and we can kind of mediate between the two drivers to share insurance information and the information you're supposed to, by statute, pass on. But we have no teeth in investigating it or writing a report showing that who's at fault or who's getting a citation for the traffic accident. So if anything happened in this subdivision, if somebody runs into something or somebody runs into another vehicle, we can't do anything there to be able to write a report or investigate that. What that also means, and I just actually got talking to Dr. Bubb, who's the West Ada School District. He had mentioned that they're seeing some issues too when it comes to buses going into subdivisions. So because this is private, no buses will drive into that subdivision. So that means any of those 140 residents or 71 houses that are in there, if they have children that go to Star Elementary, Star Middle, anything along those lines, they would have to go catch the bus over on a public road. I guess that would be Bent Lane, somewhere where they can go and catch the bus. So no longer will a bus go through that subdivision to pick them up because, again, it's private. And because we can't investigate a crash accident, they won't drive the buses in there.
You're about out of time almost, Chief.
Okay.
I gotta cut you off.
Okay. Yep. And this the other thing is that, we've dealt with a lot with the HOAs. They call us for the parking issues. They don't have a good way, so far as I've seen, to enforce any of the laws, parking laws, traffic, speeding laws, those type of things. So HOAs, in my experience, struggle with it, and they call us all the time for help. And a lot of times we can't enforce their rules. So I do worry a little bit about giving some of this responsibility to HOAs. So
Any questions, Chief? No? Thank you.
Yep.
Appreciate it. Okay, we got Chris Spallino. I think this one's not working, so I'm
That's all right.
we'll use the one in the back.
Probably won't be 3 minutes.
Okay.
Good evening, Mr. Mayor and council members. Chris Spallino, 22009 Bent Lane. My apologies to Tim, no disrespect, and to the chief. I want to stay in my lane, but I have about 25 years of law enforcement experience. And in that time, probably handled hundreds, if not thousands, of traffic complaints, subsequent traffic surveys, subsequent traffic enforcement, and more often than not, the primary offenders are in that neighborhood. It doesn't seem like that would be the case, but it absolutely is the case that everybody's in a hurry. So I wouldn't find that to be true, what he said. Anyways, I want to zoom out. My issue with the private part of it is mainly because, as I understand it, and true or not, as I understand it, that it's a workaround in approval with the highway district and so forth. Whether it is or isn't, the frustration of me and my neighbors is that there doesn't seem to be a good coordination on all these developments. I'm surrounded on 3 sides. I wouldn't be surprised if for too long 4 sides of development. And I've gone to a number of development meetings and subsequent development meetings, and it seems like the density gets increased and increased. And the question is always, well, what is there going to be an intersection here at Bent Lane to get on the state? Because right now it's hard to get out at certain hours of the day. So that's 140 more cars. And then if you go each direction of me, it's going to be hundreds and hundreds of cars trying to get out of there, and there's no answer. Well, that's the state highway. Well, that's Highway District 4. It seems to me that we don't have a plan in place, and we're trying to stuff 10 pounds of potatoes in a 5-pound bag. And I don't know. I'd like to, if we could plan this out a little bit better and how this is all going to work before we start, oh, this is private, it'll fit, we'll work it out. It's not working out. And just from a neighbor point of view. And then just finally, I know there's no shortage of meetings, but man, if there was any way, if I had a wish, I wish that someone from planning and highway would attend these development meetings, on-site meetings, because a lot of those questions and misinformation could be vetted out at the time. Thank you.
Okay, I just want to let you know, we do have a master street plan map. So for Bent Lane, it's actually going to connect to Canada Road with a stoplight there at Canada Road. So that's how you're going to get in and out off of that. With that Landreth Lane, what's the lane? What's that lane?
Yeah,
Is that called
yeah,
Landreth
it's right
Lane?
behind me.
So it's going to run straight into Canada Road over there. So that's the master plan for that. And
But at the end of the day, state is hard to get out in now, and we're going to.
no, I get that. I get that.
Because everything's going to come to a grinding halt when it gets to city, right? With all these extra cars. I mean, there's only so much more. You guys have done a great job, made state wider, but there is nowhere else to go.
Well, I know. and
Everything's going to end up there.
This is something I've been working on hard on. And at Kingsbury, we're working with the state to get a new bridge crossing at Kingsbury because you only have one for 6 miles and all that traffic trying to come through Star, right? And so we're looking for a Kingsbury crossing that'll connect up to Chinden and then eventually to the freeway there through Franklin, right?
Right, which would be great, but with all due respect, I mean, that's.
No, I get that, but when you made the statement that there is no planning, there is truly planning going on. And we just had this meeting yesterday with ITD. And it even mentioned this. They didn't even have it mentioned before that they're putting their long-range planning in place for it. They got to do environmental studies, which that's what takes place before you can do it. But the stuff is happening. It's not going to happen at the time of before development. They never do that in the state, right?
Then perhaps that leads back into what I was saying before about having someone from planning, someone from.
I don't know if that's legal.
District at
Is that at
these
the-
meetings.
But is that at the neighborhood meeting? Is that what you're talking about? Or
Yeah, like,
I don't-
when.
is that even legal, Chris, to have city staff at neighborhood meetings for that?
No. Well, you should change that, Mayor.
I
It's terrible.
I wish I could change the state law, but I let me clarify that first before, because I don't know if we can.
I mean, I know it would get messy. I get that, but.
No, it's a good,
No,
that's the first time I ever heard that, and that's a good thought, but I want to make sure that if it's something that we're allowed to do.
Yeah, so the problem is when the city's there, then it turns into everybody assumes the city is now making representations for what the project is or isn't. Excuse me, and then they show up and say, well, your staff said this or your staff said that. So typically the recommendation is that the government entities don't go. That's what the public hearing's for, so that everybody can hear what they have to say. The neighborhood meetings are for the applicant to describe to the neighbors, public generally, kind of what the project is and to answer their questions. It's not intended to be a town hall meeting or anything like that. We have done town halls for very large projects, of course, and brought in the government entities. We did that with the Willowbrook project, and had, a transportation meeting, had a water meeting, and we had our emergency services meeting and allowed the public to come in and listen to the conversation. But typically on a normal project, that's not the intent of the neighborhood meeting. The intent of the neighborhood meeting is for the applicant to meet with the public, explain what the project is, and answer questions. It's not intended to be anything where the government entities are there.
Good. All right.
That second part about answering the questions, if they can't answer the questions, it's fully useless. I mean,
I get it.
I don't know if there's a way to maybe think outside the box. Maybe someone speaks, developer leaves, now the city's there, something. I mean, it just would be helpful because
The problem is, there's no
every single, the people behind us, the people west of us, the Fagundes, the representatives both times said, well, there's going to be a road coming out here. Well, how you can get on a highway? Well, I don't know. I guess they'd put a light there. You guess? Well, what about Bent Lane? I've heard two things. I heard it's going to be dead end, and I heard it's going to keep going to Canada. We don't know. Well, if nobody knows, how can the public make an informed decision to come to public comment? And
Mr. Mayor, staff is always available. Anytime you want to come in and ask questions and look at maps and everything, I've never.
And they're on our website too, but we do
Always,
plan this out.
one of those neighborhood meetings, you always call me up and we can sit down and we can go over.
okay,
any
because
que-
I'll give that a try because
Yeah, call Sean.
that's what we're here for.
I totally get it, man. There's something, we don't do the roads ahead of time, and we never have.
right.
I've been here all my life. We never have, right? It's frustrating, especially when you get to these fast growth spurts that we're in, where everything is trying to catch up, but yet we don't have the ability. The state limits us on what we can do as far as denials on certain things, right? If there's already entitlements and stuff in place, then the counties get involved and they approve developments anyway outside city limits. And then the city's responsible for all the services that are being applied there, right? And it creates all sorts of issues. This whole road dynamic thing that we're dealing with, that's why we have this master street plan. We also have a transportation committee that are retired citizens in our community that are our transportation planners and stuff that work on that map and work with the public agencies to try to get that network figured out and planned. And we're dealing with Canyon Highway or Highway District 4 on the Canyon County side and ACHD on the Ada County side, right? And that's a whole different dynamic in itself. And so it's a challenge all around the board. I just invite you, come in and talk. We could sit down and talk. I could show you all these things so you can have it and give it to you. And we talk to staff about what we are doing. But I totally appreciate what you're saying because it's not falling on deaf ears. It's things that we are actually trying to hammer out and work on through the city on here. So,
All right. Thank you.
yep, appreciate it. Thank you.
Mayor Chadwick.
Yes, ma'am. Do you have hang on.
It's-
Mr.
I don't-
Chris. I don't know if she's going to ask you a question. I'm not sure. So
Appreciate your input here. And it is hard because when we look at the application, we're just looking at that one application. And oftentimes we don't see the other developments that are connecting to it. And so just seeing this map here, right here tonight, it's like, oh, wow. But is this available on the website? Is it something
Yes.
that it is available on the website?
I think we
Okay.
just put this together.
Okay, I think it would be maybe very helpful for me and the public, to see and how our roads are connecting. So, yeah, it's easier to understand and plan better.
Our master transportation plan is online, so you can go
Yes,
online and
that-
see.
yeah.
see how
Seen
the
it.
I
future-
will tell you, if I had my way, I would control the roads internally in Star because we would have a lot different network here, right? And a lot more say when it's two separate taxing entities that control that outside of us, we don't get a lot of say and input from them. We put our plans together and try to get them to approve our plans, which they do. But then it's like pulling teeth to try to make sure that they follow through with those plans, right? With everything that's going on. And that's why our transportation committee is so important for us that meets every month. And they have representatives from the transportation worlds, even ITD that comes out and meets with them as well. So if you don't mind, just get a hold of me and we'll sit down, we'll talk and we'll get with Sean there and just kind of go over everything that's happening over in that area. So you have everything out in front of you.
Great. Thank you.
Cool. You bet. Thank you, sir.
Thanks.
Is it Norca? Okay. Thank you. All right. Norca, it's Norca Helmick. I wasn't sure if I was reading that wrong.
Nope, you did great. Thank you. So my name's Norca Helmick. I live on, oh, sorry. Good evening. Thank you for the time and the opportunity.
If you don't mind pulling that microphone down just a little bit there to you. Thank you.
Yeah. Okay. All right. Good evening, Mayor, council members. Thank you for this opportunity. My name is Norca Helmick and I live on 6375 Bud Lane. And Tim actually answered one of my questions during his presentation. So I have to be transparent in that my next couple questions are very selfish and related. And so one of them is that we built our home 9 years ago there on Bud Lane. It wasn't even called Bud Lane then. Never mind, neither here nor there. Anyway, and so at that time, there were specific FEMA standards. Well, since then, the standards have changed. And so wanted to inquire what arrangement, if any, has the city made with the developer, or what obligation or accountability does the developer have to address that grade change right at our property line? Because there's about a 2 to 3 foot slope. And so on either one side of our fence. And so when those future residents are watering, that water is going to run off into our property. And so wanted to clarify against, I guess, and if this isn't the right venue to have this
No, ask the
conversation.
questions, because what we'll do is we got our flood control guy here, and what we'll do is we'll set up a meeting so we can sit down and talk about that
Yeah.
specifically. But I want you to bring it all out, everything that you got.
Oh, well, I'm
Get it
not gonna
going.
do that in 3 minutes.
In
I
3
know.
minutes.
And then the next question was just, what does R5 residential mean when it's zoned that way?
It's 5 units per acre. If it's zoned 5 units per acre, I don't think this one is. It's 3, I believe, right?
I think it's
Yeah.
3 from the plans. Is like 2 stories or story level taken into consideration at all?
No.
I guess, is there any opportunity in the future? And I say that because of our like flood, with the runoff standards, right? So there's a pad built that's already 3 feet. You put 3 houses there in that acre, and that's 2 stories. I mean, we're pretty much going to be just in our backyards looking at 3 houses and those houses looking back into us. And so the question was just, I mean, there's nothing that can be done now, I guess, for future planning, how is that taken into consideration, or could it be taken into
We do
consideration?
take that if it's brought up at the public hearing. Initially, when we approve these things, and we do put them in development agreements, it's happened on many subdivisions out there where it's 1-to-1, single level to single level and stuff like that. I don't know if this one.
The original application did not require
Yeah.
single level homes.
Yeah, so I mean, it's a moot point at this time, but good to know for future.
Yep.
But yeah, that was it. So I guess next steps then,
So yes, so I'm gonna have Ryan get a hold of you.
okay,
Just meet up with you, get your contact, and he can meet with you and talk about the flood stuff and what's required on retaining water on site and all that kind of stuff
okay,
that you're referring to.
great. Well, thank you.
You bet.
Appreciate it.
Thank you. Okay. That's all that signed up for the public
Sorry, real
comment.
quick, will that be a 1-to-1 meeting?
Yeah.
Okay,
Or if you have neighbors that want to come with, more than welcome to do that.
okay, so I can bring.
You can bring the crew. Yep. Everybody.
right. Thank you. Thanks for your patience and my.
Absolutely. No, you're good. Thank you. All right, I have the applicant come back up.
Get us both. Did we look back at the plat that showed all the subdivisions around us?
Will you, make sure you're talking to the microphone.
Sorry about that.
Yeah.
I need to tell you who I am again?
Yeah, I can hear you now. Oh, you don't have to say it. No.
Okay.
You're good.
So I was looking for
What
the,
you want. Hey, Sean. Okay.
I think that might be
is this a laser pointer on here?
Yeah, that's a pointer. Actually a better pointer because it highlights what you're trying to point.
Ooh. Okay. Be challenging. So again, we have the ability, well, first of all, to Mr. Balicki's concern, we have no plan to try to annex this subdivision into the Star River Ranch Homeowners Association. We would like to merge with, with this subdivision right there, which is Tradition Capital Partners subdivision. And that subdivision is all private roads. And the benefit of merging the two homeowners associations is that we can both have similar rules. We can both, through our CC&Rs, we can enforce parking restrictions. If you draw it in the CC&Rs and you have an adequate property manager, they can respond and will respond to parking violations, and they can respond to traffic violations. They cannot get out and mitigate an accident, but we can control the traffic, we can control the speed, the valley gutters that will be in there. The longest road segment is 1,025 feet. Within each road section of 1,025 feet, there are 3 valley gutters that if you're going through in a nice car, you're not going to hit those things at excessive speed. You're going to do damage. Going through a heavy truck, you're going to knock your cavities out. Addition to, there we go, to that one being private road, it's my understanding that the majority, if not all, of this subdivision is all private roads. So there's multiple applications around us that have and are being approved with private roads, which we went before both of them and had not considered private roads, but when it seemed to be a relatively common practice for a period of time, it seemed like it made sense for us to get on board with the private road. Given our little subdivision there, there's no reason for anybody to drive through there. This doesn't have much of a pointer, but Landreth Lane, as you can see, goes all the way through, and it comes up to Bent Lane and is planned to extend to Canada Road. The Fagundes property, which is this one here, also on the cursor, thank you, right there, that has another connection to State Street. This is a mid-mile collector. It's a higher speed road. There's no direct lot access on a mid-mile collector or on a collector road. It's designed to get people in and out. And then when Landreth continues all the way across here to Canada, that will provide accessibility to Canada Road to get out to 44. I hope this addresses some of the concerns about the traffic in and out, but our application is just that, you know, for private roads and gates within our private little enclave there, to prevent anybody from wanting to rip through here to get to there. I really think we mitigate the traffic concerns. We can control the parking. We're more than glad to meet with fire and law enforcement to determine what kind of access devices they would want on the gates. And we're more than glad to meet with them to discuss any kind of language they would like to see in our CC&Rs to help prevent them from getting burdened by people calling about speeders. Not to mention having it disclosed in all sales
It
documents.
won't prevent them because people are free will to call whatever they want. So we got to
I know.
remember that.
I know, but at least they're on notice before they go in, as well as the private roads are all.
I don't think
private.
anybody reads their CC&Rs to understand what's going on. I haven't read
Well,
mine, so.
That's what I'm saying. We would do a separate, separate notice.
Let me ask you a question though. I don't mean to cut you off, but making that private road is not contingent. You can have public roads there and private roads down there and still combine the two subdivisions. There's nothing that requires them to be private.
Well, not combined subdivision, but require the homeowners associations. But I don't feel it's a fair offer for me to offer for our subdivision to have the access to those private gated amenities in Tradition's property in here. It only seemed reasonable that they would want private and gated access to our amenities right in the middle there with the pool and rec building.
Okay. Anything further?
Thank you, Mayor. I just wanted to add too, as far as the zoning goes and the density, it is R5 zone property. We're not proposing to change the zoning or anything like that. The number of lots also will not be changing.
Was this approved prior and just brought a plat back? Is that what it was?
Mr. Mayor, the R5 zone was already in place when they came through with their
But it's-
preliminary plat, but rather than changing the zoning, we limited them to a density
To a number.
through the development agreement.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, we just agreed to keep it at 3. And to try and answer Ms. Helmick's concerns, all of our lots will have positive slope to the street. There'll be no drainage off of our lots onto the neighboring properties. As well as I have had several conversations with Dustin, her husband, and with Bud on wanting to meet with them now that we're close to having the final grade established there, of what kind of transition will take place right at the property line, whether it's a retaining wall or what, because our lots will be elevated above theirs. Our whole subdivision had to be elevated above base flood elevation. And unfortunately, their properties are not.
Right. Okay. Any questions,
Mayor Chadwick?
Ms. Jennifer?
So regarding that southwest development that you mentioned that you may join the HOAs together, do you have like that agreement already like pretty much worked out, or is this just a verbal thing or just an idea?
I've
Approach
worked,
them?
I worked very closely with Spencer Gofed. And when they got their plat approved, I told them that we were planning on trying to move forward with doing a private road application here. And that if we got approved for private roads, as they are, asked him what he thought about the idea of merging the two homeowners associations so we could share the amenities. And he thought it was a great idea. And we've talked a number of times about doing that.
But that doesn't, like I said, private public roads don't preclude you from merging. You
they
can
don't.
do that anyway.
They don't.
Yeah. Right. Any other questions? I do have a comment though.
Sure.
You know, he made a comment saying that this has already happened around. Well, we learn, unfortunately, as we go about the challenges things bring. That's why you see us always making changes to our comp plan and our code and things like that. Ms. Oriana was talking about the sense of STAR. Private roads create problems. It takes away the sense of community that STAR wants to be, right? We have sidewalks that are going to be through there that no one else can use. No kids are going to be able to walk through to go see their neighbors up there. They're going to have to go further up the road. I think that's a problem. I really do. I don't think it's necessary to have private roads. It's something that we're pulling completely back from. It's very interesting that we went through 20 years as a city where we only had one subdivision with private roads, just one. And then just in the last few years, because of the issues that people have had with Highway District 4, they were trying to jump into this private road business, which I think creates more issues for the city of Star in the long run, right? Not just on the police side, but just on a community side. When we talk about, you're talking about cars speeding through this thing or coming through here, I don't see it happening when you have Landreth Lane over there. There's no reason for them to come through that neighborhood and take extra turns when they could just go right to Bent Lane and come down. So I don't see it, right, logically, on there. So
I don't know that we'll mitigate that much traffic trying to cut through. There will be some. We're also trying to mitigate.
yeah, there's cut through everywhere that we have, right?
We'd also trying to mitigate the traffic out onto Bent Lane local, which is right there, so that we don't have people in our subdivision pulling out here, driving across. There's 2 or 3 residences there. With the gated community, the lots become more valuable. The increased value in the gated community allows us to improve and upgrade the amenities.
From my point, can I jump in here, Mayor?
Yep.
From my point of view, your gated community and the southeast subdivision from Spencer Cofed, they're just different animals. One's a dead end and one's a through. In all reality, I'm not for private streets if they're stopping a connection that can be made for people in the future. It's tough for me to see how they match a through street could be as opposed to a dead end. A private street that's a dead end, nobody's going to drive down anyway. But the access for me, public wide, would mitigate the problems as we've learned with other subdivisions. That's just where I stand. Thought I would let you know.
Sorry, I hit my mute. My eyes. Any further questions or for Tim or comments so he can respond to them?
No.
No? Are you good, Tim?
Yeah, and the
Saying?
only, the only other comment is within Star River Ranch, all of the sidewalks are also private. They're on easements throughout the residential lots. So all the sidewalks here are private. All the sidewalks here are private.
How are you going to enforce that? There's no
Well,
gates. I mean, that's the thing, really. I mean, the
You
only
don't.
part that's gated is where you're at.
And where Spencer's going to be gated.
Also a
to get-
dead end
Huh?
is the problem. Or the difference. Not necessarily the problem, but the difference for me.
Yeah.
Whereas if Landreth is built, I mean, there'd be abundant vehicular and pedestrian traffic through Landreth and Bent Lane without having to go through the community.
Okay.
Thank
Fair
you.
enough. Thank you, sir.
Mr. Mayor, before Tim sits down,
Hang on.
I've got a question. I think, so I don't know what your decision is going to be and you guys will deliberate this, but Tim, are you all also asking through this modification to remove that street going south onto Little Bent Lane?
Yeah, so we were also asking to eliminate that street connection and just make it a private driveway like we have in several other locations, mitigate the connectivity onto Bent Lane to prevent local traffic from within Legato to go out onto Bent Lane and drive by those three houses.
So my question is, Tim, if the council decides to deny the request for the private streets, do you still want to request that plat be modified to remove that access point? Because if so, they'd have to make that decision tonight as part of the modification. And the second question is, you were proposing to change your amenities from.
Yeah.
So just explain to them what you want to do so we
So
can
do
we
we-
can get this all on record
Okay,
tonight.
but let me ask a question. Did we specifically say that it had to be pickleball courts, or can he choose to do that on his own in his development? As long as it's equal or better?
Usually staff can make that decision, but if he's asking it in front of the council could make that decision officially tonight as part of this decision.
There were a list of amenities recommended, a list of amenities selected. We can always upgrade our amenities. The benefit of the added value to the lots, if it's private, provides the resources to upgrade the amenities. If we can't privatize make the roads private, then the added value to the lots won't exist and probably would not justify upgrading the amenity to, a very expensive pool and changing rooms versus a pickleball court.
Okay.
Mayor Chadwick, so I think, did we put it in a condition that it would be the amenities that were stated in the application? So regardless of what we do here tonight, if we approve or deny it, and you want to change it to a swimming pool and it was a condition, could we, if we were to deny it, could we say that we approve that change in amenity though?
I'd have to look and see what the actual approval was.
Oh.
And I can do that while you're.
But we can give them the option to say, yes, you can upgrade it to a pool if you choose.
Yeah.
Mhm. Yeah.
I think if you're upgrading an amenity, we're fine with that, but we wouldn't want, for example, you guys to approve a pool and then have them downgrade it to a basketball court. I mean, so.
Yeah.
Right.
Ping pong table. Yeah.
Yeah. That's pickleball.
Yeah.
Okay. Any further questions of Mr. Eck?
Mr. Mayor,
Yes.
Brian Morgan, your city engineer. I just want to clarify one thing that Tim said. He indicated that all sidewalks in Star River Ranch are private sidewalks. That is not the case. Only those behind the gate are private sidewalks. All the rest of those sidewalks are located within the public right of way of Highway District 4.
I disagree.
Got the plat right here in front of me.
Star River Ranch, the sidewalks through Star River Ranch subdivision, 1 and 2 are all on easements through the private lots.
Easements, public right of way, either way.
Well, that,
Easement.
well, that's the same thing in Ada County, I think.
It's,
Same thing.
it's an,
Yeah.
it's an easement to the benefit of the members of the homeowners association, not to the public,
An
No, the public
easement
street,
to the
the
highway
public
district.
sidewalks.
not public sidewalks.
So. Okay,
The sidewalks are all detached. Well, I take that back. There is a small amount of sidewalk that is attached on, I think it's River Ranch Road, the one coming in. Those are attached. God, are they? Yeah, I think there's a short section of attached sidewalks. Beyond that, once you get within the internal part of the subdivision, the meandering sidewalks are all on easements on the private lot behind the right of way. And the easement is for the benefit of the members of the homeowners association.
I remember this project coming in. I don't remember us ever talking about those being private sidewalks ever.
Star Ranch.
Yeah.
I'd be more than glad to provide you all the documentation that CCNR.
Either way, it really doesn't apply to this one anyway.
Just
I guess it
point.
doesn't matter. Yeah.
Those sidewalks are all private.
Okay. Any further questions of Mr. Tim? Okay. Anything else there, sir?
That's it. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. It is 8:26. I'm going to close the public hearing and go to council deliberation.
Mayor Chadwick.
Councilwoman?
So, I understand that there's a lot of, I don't know, it's dealing with Highway District 4. It sounds like there's some difficulty working with them for some of these developments in Canyon County. And so we have had a few applications come, this one tonight, because, they due to delays or approval, that they wanted to change to a private roads. I'm, Star, we are a community, we are like a united community. And I think that if we continue to put gates up in these neighborhoods and have private streets, we're not fostering that neighborhood feel that the city, the residents really, they move here for, and we've been enjoying it. And so, when I see these gated communities come in, I just don't like it. So, besides that fact, I do have an issue with the enforcement. It's quite a few homeowners in that, a lot of homes in there. And I live in a pretty small neighborhood. I think we have about 70 homes compared to a lot of these other large ones. And you'd think that there's not a lot of, issues that happen, but speeding, emergencies, stuff happens all the time. And neighbors are always, what's going on? Call it, come check on my neighbor. And, if the police can't come in there, I worry about, the safety, of those homeowners and not understanding when they would move in there, what they would be getting. So I am leaning towards, denying it.
Okay. Anything else? Motions? I'm just going to say that I'm going to just one real quick. My biggest concern right now is my police. I'm always trying to find ways to fund more police people. If we continue, and we made a mistake, I'm going to just flat out say by approving these other private roads, we make a mistake and they're getting inundated with calls that they can't even, they're not going to drive through and patrol that, right? To stop the challenges that are going to happen. That creates more issues for the rest of the community for me if they're handling calls that they can't even handle, and that's a problem. And when people get mad at the police, that's where we have societal breakdown, and that's a problem. And I don't need that to happen in the city of Star when we've done so much to make sure our police are whole, that we've done everything we can to make sure crime is low in our communities. It's a concern for me greatly on that. So I don't vote on this, guys. But I'm not in favor of doing this, and I'm hoping that we do not do private roads anymore in the city of Star based on all the information that we've gathered over the last few months on that. So it's up to you guys though. Decide.
All right, Mr. Mayor. Yeah. What it does is it takes it from a police problem to a property manager problem. And he did state with an adequate property manager, it's mitigatable. However, I can tell you in my HOA, we've changed property managers about 6 times. I don't even know who's cashing my check, but I do know when they don't get it. So, and in all reality, I agree. So I'm going to make a motion that we do deny this application for public street or private streets. The amenity thing, I don't even think that's a council thing.
So do we need to, Sean, we got 3 parts on this, I think. Right? The private streets, the road removal, and the ability to do and you said you didn't think it was a council thing for the amenity.
Mr. Mayor, looking at the findings, the amenities were left up to the developer. The only thing that you had required is that they did not have the dog park that was going to be off-site. And we've got that condition, but the developer has the ability to work with staff on whatever the amenities. So really it boils down to the decision on the private roads and the, I guess the modification if the applicant decides to remove that stub road going south onto Bent Lane or Little Bent Lane, I think it was called. Do that or allow that modification and we can make that as part of the findings for this decision.
So would you, on your motion, just clarify the 3 pieces, just so it's clear? David, use it nicely.
All righty. I will try.
Mr. Mayor, adding one thing, with the understanding that by removing that stub, they're still going to have to meet the requirements of the fire district with regards to access and how many lots they can get per phase and things like that. So that needs to be clear that if that is removed, it could change their phasing. So
Okay.
just put that on the record.
My initial motion stands with the addition of, like I said, the amenities. That's up to them.
Okay.
I'm not even gonna, there's nothing I should even be saying on that because we did approve that. And as for the stub connection, in my motion, I am for keeping that.
Okay, so not to allow the removal.
Correct.
Okay, so we have a motion. Do we have a second?
Second.
We have a motion, a second. Any further discussion?
Just to make sure that that stub road that goes to the south is the full width that doesn't restrict future growth.
Okay. We have a motion, a second. Any further discussion? Hearing none, roll call.
Hershey,
Aye.
Wheelock,
Aye.
Salmons.
Aye.
Okay, that motion carries. Thank you. All right, we're going to move on to item 7B, the Pathway Master Plan Adoption. I think we have somebody from Kimley Horn here, right? Thank you.
Good evening.
Is that green, the microphone?
Oh, no, you're good. Yeah, that's perfect. Thank you. Good evening, Mayor, Council members. We're excited to be back again before you tonight. You'll recall we were here previously in a work session format just to walk you through the different parts and pieces of this project. I am Nicolette Womack with Kimley Horn.
Hang on one sec. Hey, guys, can we go outside? Hey, outside the chat? Thank you.
If you need an address, it's 1100 West Idaho Street, Boise, Idaho 83702. So we've been working with city staff since February of this year. A lot of people have worked on this project. I'm going to be quick about this since a lot of it is what you saw previously with Tim. So we've enjoyed working with Ryan, Tim, Sean, Ryan, and Dana to go through the process. We've also worked with yourself, Mayor, Council Member Salmonson, and the TPC committee through this process. And then the 2 consultant teams, Kim McCord and Logan Simpson. So you already saw the schedule previously, but we did kick off in February. We had some field work in March. We had online and in-person engagement in July. The draft plan was released for city staff to review in the TPC in September. We did release that to the public in October. It was up for about a month for online review. It was posted in several places, accepting feedback. And we made the updates based off that feedback. We're here for adoption in December. The other feedback that came in along the way was from ACHD, and there was feedback from city staff regarding the capital improvement plan and making sure that was more fleshed out. So again, this is the document. It's been included in your packet. We have it tonight if there's any questions in full form. Just walking you through the parts and pieces again. Chapter 1 was the introduction, goals, the importance of pathways and trails. There's an overview map of what's existing within the network, an alignment with other existing documents, including Canyon Highway District 4 and ACHD's work. Shown here is an overview of the community needs, the engagement process that was utilized for this process. I will say since you last saw us, we had roughly 30 additional comments online on the full draft plan, and we'll talk through some of the things that are in there. There also are the pathway classifications, the different sections, elements, and amenities along the pathway system. Part of this that was cleaned up was to make sure it was clear which section developers or city projects or ACHD projects should be following, should they be an ACHD right of way, which would obviously be ACHD standards at that point. And then in the network map, Logan Simpson thoroughly went through this based off of ACHD's comments to make it more clear what would be STAR's network and what would be ACHD's network and how the two overlap with one another. And then there's the pathway maintenance section. So again, there's more clarification regarding ACHD's maintenance responsibilities and STAR's responsibilities. Again, this is a long-term planning document. So this is very conceptual in nature and can be changed at any time with policy. And then within the capital improvement plan, there is a short-term and a midterm section of the capital improvement plan. So you have a bucket of projects you can work on in different increments. We also made it more clear what is should be considered a STAR project or an ACHD project and the likes, and we quantified that for you for the future. That is the bulk of the plan. In general, some of the comments that were received were, again, the ACHD overlap. There were some questions about specific properties, and we would just want to be clear again, this is conceptual in nature. All the pathway segments are meant to connect, different parts of town, and everything will be worked out on a parcel by parcel basis. So with that, we will stand for any questions. And I believe staff probably has the information for any motion.
Okay, and I need to make clear, I opened at 8:33. I just didn't say it. I wrote it down. So. Okay, any questions?
I don't have as many questions as I have. I just want to make a comment on the process and like on page 18 for me, that the Star City Pathway Master Plan Park Priorities. I love the way you broke that down so that we could see where everybody's real efforts and desires really were. It's just really comprehensive as I've looked through it. And it helps me understand what the city's looking for, and I'm grateful for that. So thank you.
Okay.
I think it's fantastic. I really do. It's incredibly detailed, and it's got nice pictures for people like me that struggle with words. And it just like Councilman Willock said, it really breaks it down to the easy to understand, logical process to follow. It's a great thing.
And the CIP is pretty in depth, I think, for us on this. And just so everybody's aware, we have a impact fee committee that will be taking this up to establish an impact fee on new homes that are building to help pay for the infrastructure of this pathway system. I know that's a question that comes up, and how's it going to get paid for, right? It's that. We also have, I just had a meeting, and Ryan Morgan did today with ITD. The Greenbelt system that runs through Boise in a couple years will be all the way out here to Star. And we're going to get we're hoping, and we think we are, going to get an old bridge, 250-foot bridge that was built in like 1930 or something like that in northern Idaho that'll be moved down here to be our bridge crossing across the river. That's part of this plan, right? And so pieces of this plan are already in place to happen. And it's going to be good to have this as a guiding document for us in the future to connect our community and stuff. So. Any questions? Anybody sign up to speak? Ryan's checking.
Mayor Chadwick?
Yes.
So, at our last item on the agenda, we had someone speak about, that the big picture, the big transportation plan. Does
Nothing,
anyone
Ryan.
have a plan? And this is kind of our, we had a map that we developed maybe 4 years ago. And then this document right here, that is our vision. This is our plan. It's the first step, towards implementing it. And so it's really exciting. Even though it may seem like we don't have a plan, we have a plan. And this is another mode of transportation, and so people can connect and get outside and meet their neighbors and continue on with that community connection that we're trying to hold on to.
Yep. Any further questions? All right, thank you.
Mr. Mayor, I've got a real quick question for Nicolette.
Here you go. Staff's got a question.
So later on in our agenda, we're doing a municipal code amendment which we do every 6 months, it seems like. Are there any elements in this plan that you would recommend we put into the Unified Development Code other than referencing the plan at this point?
Mayor, council members, in regards to the more meat and potatoes parts of this plan, I would say the sections are highly valuable in terms of how projects should be designed in the future. Should they be near some of the pathways listed on the maps? So that would just standardize that.
We could reference the plan in that at this time and then.
For the design and stuff
For
like
the
that?
design, and then
Yeah.
later on, when we do another amendment, we could bring the elements specifically within.
Yep.
Is that your recommendation?
Yes, and it's just like in all projects when you review your comprehensive plan and you say you need to be in compliance with the spirit and intent of the comprehensive plan, it would be spirit and intent of the pathway plan.
Yeah, so just for the record, we are in the process of updating our comprehensive plan. We're gonna be doing that starting in January. So Councilwoman Solomon will be helping me with bringing this into that specific language, so that we'll get that done. So thank you very much.
Okay.
Mayor Chadwick, so as this document evolves and changes, when we need to make a change to it, do we just have another document that is an amendment to this, or do we have this original file that we can edit?
We'll have the original file.
Okay, great.
Yep. Okay. It is 8:43. I'm going to close the public hearing. Go to council deliberation.
Mayor Chadwick?
Councilwoman?
Yeah, I've been involved in this process for many months now, so feel very comfortable with approving it tonight. So I will go ahead and make a motion to adopt the Pathway Master Plan.
Okay, we have a motion. We have a second.
Presented.
Second.
We have a motion second. Any further discussion? Hearing none, roll call.
Hershey,
Aye.
Wheelock,
Aye.
Solomon.
Aye.
Okay, that motion carries. Thank you. Nice job. We'll move on to item 7C, the public hearing for the municipal code ordinance amendment.
Mr. Mayor, I'll put a 5-minute potty break.
Okay. It's 8:44. We're going to take facilities break. Be back in here at 8:49. Now we're good? Sorry. All right. It's 8:50 and we're going to continue our city council meeting. Moving on to item 7C, the municipal code ordinance amendment. Sean, do you want to speak to that one? So it's 8:50. We're gonna open the public hearing.
What's this?
I'm waiting for Sean. Sean's got to pull it up here real quick. There we go. Okay.
All right, Mr. Mayor and Council, thank you. Sorry for the delay. Your final public hearing this evening is to amend your municipal code ordinance. I have three titles that we're going to amend. The first one is Title 3, which is Health and Sanitation. The mayor did bring up the fact that we do not have any wording in our municipal code regarding snow and ice removal from public sidewalks. So staff did.
We were the only city that doesn't have that.
So staff made an attempt to put some language in there that we'll go over briefly. The second one would be Title 8, which is the Unified Development Code. I figured while we were opening up the whatever you want to call it, the onion, that we fix what we can. And there's some confusion on health and fitness clubs as to where they kind of land in the land use definition. So staff just did some put a definition in there and made a specific use and required a conditional use permit. Fitness centers are, as you know, can be pretty tingly when it comes to parking and things like that. So we want to make sure that we don't leave out the public when we're making those decisions. And then the third is the flood control, Title 10, the flood control ordinance. And that was based on your previous variance that you had before you a couple months ago. We wanted to make sure, staff wanted to make sure that we had the proper language in there regarding variances. So very quickly, under Title 3, Health and Sanitation, staff added under the definition of public nuisance, we added item number 3, which includes a condition of snow or ice on any public sidewalk, including private driveway access, abutting or adjoining any privately owned premises.
I have a question.
Okay.
Is there a depth? Is there a time frame?
Let me go over these and then they can come back there because our attorney actually had that same concern. So then adding a sentence or sentences to the responsible parties. And this is something that was borrowed from a couple of other local agency codes where a nuisance exists upon a property that is vacant, abandoned, or uninhabited. The owner of record, as reflected on the most recent assessment roll, shall be presumed to be responsible for creating, causing, committing, maintaining, and or allowing such nuisance. Such owner of record shall be subject to any and all penalties imposed as part of the part as set forth herein, and shall be responsible for payment and any and all costs secured for abatement and abatement of the nuisance. The owner of record shall bear the burden of rebutting this presumption. And then B, where a general nuisance is created by personal property on any portion of a public sidewalk, the owner of the personal property, if such owner can be identified, shall be presumed to be responsible. And I can't read what's underneath that because I have no idea what that little coach thing is.
4.
4? Just hit 4?
We're creating.
Oh, okay, sorry. Creating, causing, committing, maintaining, and or allowing such nuisance. It is also unlawful for a person to create, cause, allow, or commit any nuisance upon any public right of way or infraction, including sidewalks, streets, gutters, or storm drains. Okay, so let's talk about the concerns about placing timeframes on there. So initially, the city attorney brought that up, that question up to me, and we talked a little bit about this earlier today. And I guess that's part of our discussion tonight, because trying to come up with that language, where do you start? I mean, how long is too long? You know, you've got someone that gets up in the morning and they shovel their driveway and then they go off to work for 8 hours. So you can't make it a 2-hour, you have to remove your snow off your sidewalk within 2 hours, or someone like that would never be able to do that. So trying to put those parameters is a little tricky. It might be something that is just part of our code enforcement, that if we get a complaint, we can act upon it as, you know, from the decision of the administrator, as opposed to putting specific timeframes or parameters. But I don't know how you want to, none of the other codes that I looked at had those specifics on there. They just call out it as a nuisance, and then they,
Whatever a nuisance is.
yeah, they show what is a nuisance, what's the responsibility, what's the outcome, but doesn't really say how long they have to.
As a neighborhood snowplower with equipment, I have been known to shovel 20 or 30 driveways and put the snow off wherever I can. I mean, I have to go back and clear all their drains as it melts every time, or I'm the one held liable. How's that going to work for me if I'm trying to help somebody?
Wasn't the intent of this just to clear the sidewalks?
Yeah, that's all it is.
It has drains in there.
I know, but
It gives us the ability that if there are blocked drains, we can go and have someone take care of it. And the question is, how much of a problem is this? And right, it's a problem when it's a problem, and it's a problem when we can identify that, and this gives us at least something to go after somebody if they're definitely neglecting, not maintaining their property and creating a health or safety issue.
I guess how else would you do it? How else would you take care of folks that are not removing the snow? ACHD requires them to remove the snow on the sidewalks adjoining their property. Chris?
So there's a couple parts to this. As long as the sidewalks actually belong to ACHD actually has the ultimate liability if the sidewalks aren't clean. They don't get to push their liability off onto the public. In cities like Middleton down the street where they own the sidewalks, then the city of Middleton is ultimately responsible if the sidewalks aren't clean. And
So what about the Canyon County side? Because we have an agreement with Highway District.
yeah, then Highway District 4, if they're their sidewalks, then
But
they're,
are they our sidewalks and they're just help? I mean, we don't have the same setup with ACHD as we do with Highway District.
look at that, whoever owns the sidewalk, if it's a city right away, then the city's gonna own it. If it's a CHD4 right away, then they're gonna own it. And so that's just the general liability issue. Whoever owns it is gonna be responsible if they're not kept clean. Now, what these codes had, again, ACHD has them, cities across the state have them, is that it also then puts responsibility on the actual kind of landowner who abuts the sidewalk, where the city has an enforcement power to make sure that they get, clean, or in this case, where they get cleared off. And so, to Sean's point, a lot of the city statutes or city ordinances, haven't looked at all of them, of course, just have a general requirement that says, you know, if there's snow and ice on the sidewalk, it's a nuisance, or you have an obligation to clear snow and ice from your sidewalk, but they don't put time constraints on it. It's really hard to enforce it because if, again, even just Sean's example, you get up at 6 a.m, there's snow on the ground, you go out and shovel it, it continues to snow throughout the day, and then somebody slips and falls at noon while you're at work. Are we going to come to them and say, well, it's a nuisance because you haven't been, you know, standing in your driveway and continually cleaning it? Yeah, I mean, there's, you know, so there is a challenge there. I think there's an opportunity to say, you know, if it's been 48 hours or 24 hours or 78 hours after this, you know, after the snowfall has stopped, then you've got an obligation, maybe is a way to do it. Councilman Wheelock, to your question, if you're just the service provider, you're not the owner of the property. And so the liability is not on you. Now they may, if you have a contract with somebody to clear the snow, they may come back to you and say, hey, but if you're just a kind neighbor, either way, the way this code is written, it's going to be the property owner who's ultimately responsible to make sure that it's clean. And they can do that by hiring somebody to do it. They can do it on their own, but ultimately they have to make sure it's done. But they're not really like liable as far as a legal sense, like, oh, I can, you know, if I walked down there in front of their house and they didn't clean the snow and I trip and fall, now I get to sue them. Actually, I'm suing whoever the entity that actually owns the sidewalk. But the city can go to that person and say, okay, we're levying a fine because you didn't follow city code, you didn't keep your sidewalk clean. So there's some nuances to the ice and snow that don't really apply to most of the things we do in the city. But I just wanted to kind of explain that. But as Sean and I kind of discussed a little bit earlier today, I think it does make sense to have some standard, whatever that is, so that a property owner knows, okay, it snowed today, I've got until, you know, tomorrow night to get it shoveled, rather than I just drove in the garage and I better get out and shovel it or else I'm going to get a ticket.
The only concern I have about that is if you place a time, let's say you put 24 hours. Now you're putting the burden on the city and our code enforcer to now go out and pick each piece of property that now is violating that hour, and it's putting it.
That's my concern is we're putting this vague nuisance, whatever that is, with no depth or other than parameters, whatever ACHD's got, isn't that enough? Or do we, and my concern as well as we look to hiring a nuisance or a code enforcement, is that the new busy work for him in the snow season?
I just think that
and start
there's a reason.
harassing citizens.
Well, I think there's a
I'm
reason-
against that.
I think there was a reason why I couldn't find a whole lot of detail in the other ordinances, that no one's really calling out a specific time frame, because again, I think if you have a time frame.
Kuhn is the only one that calls out a specific time.
Yeah. But so now you've got a time frame in there. Now, if your code enforcer is not going out there and zapping everybody that's not meeting that code, now what's the responsibility of the city, or what's the liability of the city? That's my concern. Now, I'm not the attorney.
Is it enough to say we follow ACHD's code? Is that enough for the city?
Do you have ACs? I don't have the, do
Do
you
we
have
need to have a
ACHD's
code
wording?
above them?
ACH, well, so every city does, except for Star. We're the only ones that don't have it. If we don't want it, then we can just deny it and not do it. But it's been brought up by ACHD asking us to pass something. I don't know why exactly they're asking. And then some citizens have requested it as well. But ACHD just says property owners and or occupants should keep sidewalks adjacent to the property reasonably free of snow and ice. That's all they say.
Let's just adopt that. That exactly.
Okay.
Makes it easy.
Yeah, and I think the reason, ACHD doesn't have their own enforcement authority. And so I think they recognize that the ultimate liability is on them for almost every sidewalk and road in the county. And so they need help from the municipalities to have the enforcement arm to be able to do something if they've got, landowners who just aren't doing anything. And there are some, I mean, and
For sure.
there's obviously, it's like, if there's a half inch of snow, is that a nuisance? Does it have to be 2 inches? Does it have to be 6 inches?
The mayor walks your road.
Yeah. Does it have to have been frozen over? Right. I mean, so there's a lot of ways you can ask the question. I think the reality is like most code enforcement that happens in any city, it's based on complaints. Most cities are not actively driving around town looking for violations of the city code so they can give somebody a ticket. It's when there's a complaint. Now, what happens here is one neighbor complains against the other one. So the city shows up and says, hey, this is a nuisance because you didn't clean the snow. Then they point across the street and say, great, go give that guy a ticket too. And the 6 other people down the street that didn't do it. And then, then it becomes an enforcement mess.
That's what I'm looking to
Yeah.
avoid is with their new enforcement officer driving down the road going, you get one, you get one, everybody gets a ticket. And I like the way ACHD wrote it. That would be my opinion.
All right, got that one figured out. Now what about the next one?
That's it.
What about the second, yeah.
So the next item, Title 8 of the Development Code. Again, staff recognized that we had fitness clubs defined under arts, entertainment, and recreation facilities. But if you look at those specific examples, amusement parks, motion picture, performing arts, theaters, racetracks, sports fields, golf courses, museums, zoos. I don't think a fitness. I don't think a Crunch or a Idaho Fitness falls into that category. So staff just made a separate definition, or not even a definition. Just we put it into a separate use, which is now fitness and health clubs, fitness centers and health clubs. And then we're requiring those to be conditional use permits within the appropriate commercial districts. So you guys will get a chance to look at them if they come out there.
That's great.
It's not something that's been a problem.
I've had more complaints about fitness facilities than anything else in my entire time here.
Have you?
Seriously.
Yeah. They do zap parking really, really bad. And
They're noisy if they drop their weights.
True. And we are getting
CrossFits.
we are getting folks in some of our newer commercial developments starting to ask about, that as an allowed use. And if we don't have anything in place, we're just kind of leaving ourselves open. So that was the reason for that.
Sean?
Yes.
So regarding on that one, if they include a spa, where would that fall? Is it still in the health club and spa?
Yeah.
Okay, so it would go in there because spa is also in, I want to say like professional services. And so maybe that would be if they're just a spa, it would go into that zone. And if it's a health club / spa,
It would fall under the new
this
code,
one.
yeah.
Got it. Okay.
Okay. And then as far as the required number of parking, we're going to leave that up to the council and staff to determine on a case by case basis rather than having a specific number. Okay. And then 8.4A.13 under the pathways, we'll just put some language in there recognizing our newly adopted master pathway plan. So we can cross-reference that later on when next year when you guys make me redo the entire code, we can add some specifics at that time. Just joking. And then the last one, Title 10, flood control. This was again brought up because of our recent variance for the floodplain application. And so our engineering staff provided this language for us, and I'll just read it into the record. Variances as interpreted in the National Flood Insurance Program are based on the general zoning law principle that they pertain to a physical piece of property. Variances are not personal in nature and do not pertain to the structure, its inhabitants, economic or financial circumstances. Variances primarily address small lots in densely populated residential neighborhoods. As such, variances from the flood elevation
Should be quite rare.
should be quite rare. The applicant shall carefully review FEMA's floodplain management bulletin titled something.
You
I'm sorry, I can't get that thing
That
off.
won't come
That's,
off?
no, it's part of my life with,
Variances in the National Flood Insurance Program, FEMA
When
P993,
you-
July
Is that,
14.
you
Ryan
change-
Morgan, is that exactly the way it was worded that when we had that hearing?
I got it here. What happens when you change my,
So
my
there-
computer's midstream?
FEMA doesn't have any specific
I got it now.
wording in their code. There are some in their technical bulletins, and this is worded, I wouldn't say exactly, but very, very closely to what that technical bulletin says.
This would help the situation that we came into this earlier.
Absolutely,
Right?
absolutely. This basically says variances for personal health issues and stuff like that are not by FEMA considered appropriate reasons for variances. So it would discourage those types of applications.
So fine. So the applicant shall carefully review FEMA's floodplain management bulletin entitled Variances and the National Flood Insurance Program. This document is available from the city staff. So that's the intent. I don't know, Ryan, if you want to add anything additional, those are the code changes that we're presenting this evening.
Okay. Alrighty. Any questions of staff right now?
So for that one, so regarding like that case, where he had that variance request, so then it wouldn't fall in here and therefore this wouldn't even come in front of us, right?
The hope is that they would read that bulletin, which is where my 4-page document came from. Most of it came from that bulletin. And that we could have the discussion with them ahead of time, which we had many of those discussions with them. They just chose not to. And
Yeah.
just like anything against our recommendation, they have the right to come to city council. This gives more documents, more information for them to review, and also helps staff support or helps council determine any denial or approval of such variances. And this way it's adopted into our code.
Okay, thank you.
Okay. Any further questions of staff? All right, we're going to move on to the public testimony portion of this. I have Miss Diane Murdoch. Did you want to speak? That's all right. You can ask the question and stuff, and then we can come back to it. We'll go back to making discuss it more. So pull that microphone down a little bit and just state your name and address for the record.
Yes. Good evening. My name is Diane Murdoch, 10428 West Lothbury Drive.
Okay.
But as you guys were discussing with Title III Health and Sanitation, as far as the snow removal, I mean, you guys were talking about pretty much all the questions that I kind of had. And my questions were, since ice and snow are naturally occurring conditions, how does the city plan to fairly measure and define when snow or ice becomes actionable under code enforcement? And then obviously without such specifics, homeowners may face frustration and confusion regarding compliance. And then will the city provide any resources or assistance such as sand or salt distribution, community programs, or exemptions for HOAs or individuals unable to clear sidewalks due to age, disability, or other limitations? And then how does the city plan to enforce these ordinances, and what penalties or processes would follow for non-compliance? So you guys kind of hit all.
We kind of hit all of them. And then, so let me just read what I think what everybody's going to go with as far as the code, because it says property owners and or occupants should keep sidewalks adjacent to the property reasonably free of snow and ice. So I don't think it's really an enforcement thing. It's just making a statement, in my opinion, right? That you should keep it. I want to go to your thing about what can the city do to help? I know Dana and I were talking about this yesterday. Was it yesterday? When we had that little snow, about putting together a group of volunteers that can go help some of our elderly or disadvantaged folks to be able to shovel their sidewalks and stuff off like that. But they wouldn't obviously they're not going to get penalized for it if we have a statement like this that's on there. Dale's got it. Our deputy back there just volunteered. He'll come and help. okay, on that. So, no, those are great questions on that. So,
And then I think the hard part too also is including, how do you plan for removal of ice? When, you have ice, but then it snows and then you can't see ice.
flat no shovel. That's the only way that I could do it.
Sometimes harder. than-
Yeah, flamethrowers. Yeah, it's a challenge. I don't know if anybody, were you here Snowmageddon year?
Uh-huh.
Yeah, that was crazy, right? I mean, a lot of frozen ice
I
and
came
stuff.
from Eastern Idaho, which is
Oh,
worse.
so yeah.
So, it's-
Yeah, this is nothing compared to what you get in Eastern
Yeah.
Idaho, so.
so
Did that answer your question a little bit? As far as the salt and stuff, we don't have that stuff as a city to supply to the residents. That's something that if volunteers go and help, I'm sure they'll have something, but we just don't have a stockpile of that or the funds to be able to buy that for everybody. So.
yeah. No, and you guys discussing and going back to ACHD code, I mean, there's a lot of, within HOAs, there's a lot of obviously questions to the HOA boards. And so it's just, since you guys had this on the agenda, is to make more clarification and find out more.
No,
So-
appreciate it. No, thank you. No, that's good. Okay, any other comments or anything? Staff? Okay. What time is it? 9:16. I'm going to close the hearing on the municipal code ordinances and turn it over to the council.
Mr. Mayor,
Councilman
I'm just going to
Hershey.
go forth and say it like this. I'd like to approve this with the changes as we discussed in section 312 definitions. And I do believe that includes 314, or is that a little bit different? A and B? And just adopt the ACHD language in that.
Okay.
I have no problems with the other changes as stated.
I'll second that. Mr. Mayor, just clarification. We'd be removing the language referencing ice and snow, or at least referencing just ACHD's language. The next sections that actually put the requirement on landowners for all nuisances, my recommendation is you would keep those. Those aren't specific to ice and snow. Those are for any nuisance. We're just stating that the landowner is ultimately responsible for any nuisance.
Okay.
But I just wanted to clarify, that may have been what the motion was. I just wanted to clarify so we knew.
Exactly as our lawyer said.
So the motion is to change the,
Number 3.
adopt everything except you're removing the snow and ice and adopting the ACHD standard, right? And everything else is staying the same? Yep, okay.
And I'll second that.
Okay, we got a motion by Councilman Hershey and a second by Councilman Wheelock. Any further discussion?
Mr. Mayor, we have all these are linked together, so we probably need to go over each of them.
You
Unless you.
He covered all of them.
He covered all of
Yeah,
them.
Okay,
Okay, he said the only change is the one to the
Gotcha.
snow and ice.
sorry. Thank you.
Okay. Roll call.
Hershey,
Aye.
Wheelock,
Aye.
Salmonson.
Aye.
Okay, that motion carries. Thank you. Okay, on to action item A. This is where we're going to amend the Ada County Sheriff's contract for approval for a code enforcement officer and authorize me, the mayor, to sign the amended contract. And this is, Zach, did you want to speak to this at all? Real quick on that contract, just real fast? Okay.
Well, Mr. Mayor, I've seen nothing today that says we need this.
Yeah.
It's all harmony out there.
Right. Mr. Mayor, City Council members, so this code enforcement, we've been kind of talking about it for quite a while to add this, and it's something that needs to be added to the City of Stars. We grow, we're getting more and more calls for code enforcement. I think
Thank you.
Poor Ryan Field's been taking quite a majority of them. So, but this is addendum to the contract. This is only 9 months of the contract because we're hoping by January to fulfill this. I'm trying to think here for what the total amount increase is. I think it's because I know, well, and then the vehicle.
Then there's a vehicle ad also that we're purchasing the vehicle and owning the vehicle. Correct?
So you're purchasing, so how the contract works with all our police vehicles is the City of Star pays monthly for each vehicle that's out here. So Ada County Sheriff's Office still owns the vehicle, does all the maintenance for it, and you guys pay monthly. This is where you pay, because the city of Ada County Sheriff's Office doesn't have the funds to purchase this outright before, because it's an addendum to the contract. So the same way we did Eagle when we purchased vehicles for them when they added the contract is you pay the 5 years up front of the 12-month payments. So you won't pay that monthly fee on this vehicle for 5 years. Actually, it's 5.5 years if you look at the way this is written up. For the 5.5 years, and then after that, it'll be added so we can replace that vehicle through the contract, not have to do the upfront $72,000 something that it costs to get the vehicle.
So it's 120,000 increase with the vehicle. And for everybody, so they're aware, it's going to be covered with mitigation fees also. Right. From that bucket of money, since it's going to be handled under the police.
And that includes all the maintenance to the vehicles. I mean, you've seen just this last week, we're out on Sunday. We have one patrol car that's down right now. We'll get a replacement for that while we're fixing it. Same with this code enforcement. If something happens to it, if he wrecks it, something like that, all that liability insurance goes underneath Ada County Sheriff's Office. You guys don't carry the insurance on the vehicle. And then they'll have a spare vehicle for that person to drive around for the code enforcement until that vehicle comes back out. So that does guarantee a vehicle to you for that position.
So the position that we're talking about hiring is a full deputy? Not,
No. So he's not a commissioned deputy, him or her, not a commissioned deputy. It'll be a professional staff deputy. So the way we're doing it the same way that CUNA Police Department has. So Tim Zins is actually the code enforcement officer in City of CUNA. This will be almost exactly the way they do it there. So he still answers, he's still part of the Star Police Department. I'm overall in charge of him. He'll fall underneath Sergeant Still as his direct supervisor for the code enforcement portion of it. But he won't be a full commission deputy, so he won't carry a gun. If we go full commission, it's quite a bit more expensive, and they have to follow the training of the Idaho Post. So all the curriculum there, so all the training that goes into it too. So this is just pure professional staff, not commissioned.
thank you.
And if they need professional staff, they can have them
They have
on speed dial.
I will say too, just so you know, what we're also going to do is this code enforcement. He'll be busy with the codes, and that'll be his first priority. But the second priority, if he's not busy on codes, he can take low priority calls. And what I mean by that, calls that are over the phone. So if Star Police gets a report of parking issues or something along those lines, it's a low priority call, so don't really technically need a deputy to respond. He can handle some of those. So he'll take a little bit of weight off our patrol staff too at the same time. If he's not busy on his main job would be code enforcement.
Would his contacts be in the proactive section of our police monthly report? Would that fall into those?
We sure can add it.
Where would his contacts be?
Going around writing tickets.
Right?
We probably have to we have to determine that. I don't
Yeah,
think
we'll have
we've
to figure that out.
Approve it. and
Yeah,
figure
I'll
it
just,
out.
Yeah, and that's the other thing that we're building too, and actually City of CUNA just did it too. So all the stuff that code enforcement is dealing with usually is not criminal. It's all civil items. So when he writes a citation, it doesn't go through the criminal courts. It'll actually go through the civil process through the City of Star and our city clerk to go through that process. The nice thing is CUNA just barely got theirs up and going. I've been meeting with them. They've been sharing their information so we can kind of not create their will. It's all we'll just mirror what they're doing.
have his own response time. It's under 72 hours.
There you go. Yep.
That's perfect. All right. Any further questions, Chief? So we need you to I need you to authorize me to sign the contract for the $3,573,907.
So moved.
Okay, we have a second?
Second.
We have a motion by Councilman Hershey, second by Councilwoman Solomon. Any further discussion? Hearing none, roll call.
Hershey.
Aye.
Wheelock. Solomon.
Aye.
The motion carries. Thank you.
Mayor Chadwick.
Yes, ma'am.
Thank you for putting in this mitigation fee and for all of us for
You're welcome.
approving it so that we can help fund this much needed position.
Yeah.
So,
And Ryan thanks you.
yes.
He gets tired of getting yelled at.
Yeah.
And then so on item 8B, we will not be having that tonight as we have to publish it, correct? Or post it, I mean. And so we're going to move that to a date later. So we're not going to even open that or anything right now. So since this is the end of the city council meeting, it's 9:25 and we're adjourned.